This video has been brought to you by Raycon. We're heading towards the end of the summer and you'll likely need some good listening on your next trip to the beach or convention, whatever it is you do at the end of the summer. I don't know, I'm not your dad. But if I were, I'd get you some Raycon everyday earbuds. Happy birthday, son. Co-founded by Ray J and endorsed by celebrities like Brandy, Melissa Etheridge, Mike Tyson, and Snoop Dogg, Raycon's everyday earbuds are the perfect companion on your next trip. Bluetooth earbuds that not only have great sound, compact design for a comfortable fit, and come in a variety of cool colors, they start at half the price compared to other premium audio brands out there. Either way, Raycon also gives you 8 hours of playtime on one charge, but because you can also charge the carrying case, you can extend that to 32 hours total. That's perfect for road trips, unless you're the one driving. Don't wear earbuds while you're driving. That said, you can also toggle between 3 customizable sound profiles, get that sound you're looking for, and there's awareness mode and noise isolation mode to help tune out all that nonsense happening outside. And if you're not convinced, Raycon also comes with a 30-day free return policy. I personally don't do much in the summer. I'm a man of simple taste and I don't like to be hot and bothered. But I still get a kick out of using Raycons for workouts, grocery trips, anything that just puts me like in a cool vibe. I'm likely wearing Raycons while I'm doing it. So what are you waiting for? Click the link in the description below or go to buyraycon.com/Somecallmejohnny to get 15% off your next Raycon purchase. Thank you for tuning in and help support the channel. I mean it every time I say it. I appreciate it. Let's continue on with the show. Well, Devil May Cry, it's been an entertaining ride, but I'm afraid things are ending after today's video. We're at the last game, and we're back in the original continuity. Even though they tried to save face with DMC, giving it a definitive edition with a bunch of quality of life updates that I would argue made a good game great, the damage was already done, and folks just wanted the old Dante back. Even to stress again, DMC was by no means a flop. It did just fine. Just folks want nothing to do with it, and they wanted to move on. To everyone's delight, after much speculation, after enough teases from the likes of Ruben Langdon and Johnny Young Bosch, or when Dan Southworth fucked up and just blurted out something he shouldn't.
No, I think it's great how it happened because now they're going to bring us back. You can say that, right? No.
Oh.
Well,
Okay.
In E3 of 2018, Capcom would announce Devil May Cry 5 for then current consoles. Nero was back, the craziness was back, and everyone's favorite loud and crazy virgin was back. Hideaki Itsuno was also back in the directing chair with his intent on making this entry the best one yet. A game like DMC4 that newcomers could jump right in and get their feet wet, while veterans could bask in the refined, highly kinetic gameplay that has seen improvement after improvement since DMC3. Now you might be thinking, well wait, could the 5th game really be considered a good jumping point? Not to worry, the devs thought of this and gave players this History of DMC video that gives the basic gist of the story so far, though hilariously, DMC 2 only gets like 5 seconds of screen time. No one gives a shit about this game, goddamn. Though, now that I'm in the 5th game of the series, I don't really think there's anything I would consider an overarching story in Devil May Cry. Nothing too in-depth or engrossing that I look for in narratives. No, I like the characters in this universe. I like Dante, Virgil, Nero, and I like watching them do insane shit. But what they get themselves involved in, there's nothing that special. Shit, I think any game can make a good jumping point. Maybe not 2, because, probably not 3 either because of the difficulty, though I feel that's a little more contentious. But I also think it's clear that an engrossing narrative is really not this franchise's prerogative. These games, at the end of the day, are roller coaster rides. You strap in for a fun time, you finish up, and then you move on. And with that said, do we end on a high note? I got a good feeling that'll be the case. I did dabble into this game myself a few years ago when it originally came out, did a spotlight on it and everything, and despite enjoying myself, I was not very good at it. But I'm finally heading back into this with all the other games under my belt now, and since then, almost like it's a Capcom product or something, there's been a special edition release for it that, strangely, like DMC's Definitive Edition, this one right here is not only console exclusive, so sorry PC players, screwed out of things once again, you also need a PlayStation 5 or Xbox Series X or S to even play this. Original owners on previous gen are not completely screwed out of everything Special Edition offers. They can still download Virgil's campaign as DLC as an example, but you're out of luck if you want shit like ray tracing, turbo mode, bloody palace, or higher frame rates and fast load times. I personally think considering you can download Virgil's story with just the base game, and since I consider other features like bloody palace and turbo mode to be niche at best, I don't think you're missing out on much if you just get the base game. Hell, I'd argue getting the base game just on the fact that it has a much better cover art than the Special Edition. I mean, the Special Edition cover isn't terrible. Fucking Amazon, man. They sent me another European copy of the game. Go away, Peggy. I don't even like pegging, let alone 18 times. But this cover, it seems a bit all over the place. The character spacing is awful. I can barely make out the logo. It looks bootleg now that I'm really staring at this. Yeah, it's not good. But all that aside, let's get into this and wrap this marathon up. Sometime after the events of DMC4, Nero has officially become a demon hunter for Devil May Cry. I'm guessing that Devil Never Cry name from the end of DMC1 just didn't stick after one game, huh? Well, sometimes rebrands don't work. And it hasn't been an easy time for Nero. A few weeks prior to the start of this game, a mysterious figure would end up attacking Nero and rip out his demon arm, the Devilbringer, taking the Yamato contained within before disappearing. Though not in the best circumstances at the moment, there isn't much time to recover, for soon after getting some new work courtesy of Dante's longtime associate Morrison, Dante learns from this pretty boy here named V that a powerful demon has awakened and could potentially be a huge problem if not dealt with promptly, and then, like clockwork, a humongous demonic tree named the Qliphotht suddenly emerges in the heart of Redgrave City. Awaiting on top is Urizen, the demon in question, who wants to feed the tree enough human blood to bear fruit that'll give him ultimate power after consuming it. Hey, Devil May Cry is doing the Tree of Might story from Dragon Ball Z. I can get down with that. Can't wait to find out that Urizen is secretly Dante's evil twin or some shit like that. Oh. Anyway, Dante and the gang head to the top of the Qliphotht only to find out the hard way that Urizen isn't fucking around, promptly beating the shit out of Dante, Lady, and Trish. Though Nero attempts to help, he can't do much in his current state and Dante forces him back before things get too crazy. With no choice in the matter, Nero retreats with V to fight another day, leaving Dante and the others to fates unknown. But Nero isn't one to just stay on the sidelines. We jump ahead a month, and with the help of Nico Goldstein, weaponsmith extraordinaire, and to my utter shock, the daughter of Agnes from DMC4, holy fuck, this guy fucked someone and conceived a child, Nero is able to fill the void left behind with a robotic arm called the Devil Breaker that can do a whole bunch of things depending on the type of arm being used. It could shoot projectiles like Mega Man, help Nero eat pasta without making a mess, or help him fuck his girlfriend on those hot, sexy nights. Oh yeah, I'm serious. The sweet surrender here is one part prosthetic arm and vibrator. What? With the assistance of V, a frail man cosplaying as Adam Driver during his secret boy band days, Nero heads back to Redgrave City to climb the Qliphotht once again, fighting whatever demonic force bars his path as he not only tries to find the strength to defeat Urizen, but to find Dante and the others after they've gone missing. But thankfully it doesn't take long for Nero to find them. Turns out Lady and Trish were just being used as demonic batteries for a couple of Urizen's elite soldiers, and Dante, while beaten and battered, was just taking a nap. Forced to awaken by V after the man gives him a good scare with the Sparta he found lodged into one of the tree's roots. Fully rejuvenated and using the power of Sparta to unlock a new, more powerful form of his Devil Trigger, Dante and the others fight their way back to Urizen, now fully powered after consuming the fruit of the tree. But even with all that new power, Urizen is no match for Dante's new abilities, and the large demon is swiftly put out of commission. But it isn't over yet, for immediately after, V shuffles along and ends up recombining with Urizen to bring back their original form, Virgil. V and Urizen were in fact two sides of the same coin, Urizen being Virgil's demon half while V represents Virgil's human side. Earlier in the story, it's revealed that Virgil, who somehow managed to recover from exploding into nothingness after DMC1, was the dude in the robe that took Nero's arm and reclaimed the Yamato. On the verge of dying, Virgil would then use the Yamato to separate his demon and human side. Now, why he did that, I couldn't tell you. Maybe it was an act of desperation to seek more power. Maybe he was willing to try anything just to stay alive. But the result of this creates Urizen and V, Urizen taking all the power-hungry aspects of Virgil's personality, while V retains the emotional, human element. In fact, until re-emerging with Urizen to reform Virgil, V was actually a pretty chill dude who bears regret over his previous actions as Virgil. He's got a thing for poetry, loves a good song and dance, and pulls his weight in fighting demons with the help of his companions. The bird Griffin even getting one of my favorite lines in the whole game.
Have you lost your mind? There's a demon to destroyed! Kill yourself later! I'll help!
But it turns out V can't last long without his demonic half, as the man slowly begins to deteriorate the longer he remains without Urizen. So, in an act to save himself, and I guess to ultimately stop Urizen, because that's what happens, he fuses with him once again to form Virgil, who's now completely recovered and ready to continue his quest for power. Though Nero is willing to help Dante stop his brother once again, Dante wants Nero to stand aside, revealing to the shock of absolutely no one, I imagine, that Virgil is indeed Nero's father. Dante feels it's his responsibility to stop Virgil and doesn't want Nero to deal with the idea of fighting against his own dad, so he heads off to face Virgil alone. But Nero thinks this whole sibling rivalry thing is utter horseshit, and realizing he has a father and uncle now worth protecting, he stops the two from killing each other by reaching within and finally unlocking the power of his own devil trigger to even the playing field. He even gets a new arm, which is cool, but what's he gonna use with Kyrie on those hot Saturday nights now? Demonic fisting? Ouch. Anyway, Nero whips the fucking shit out of Virgil and convinces the two to put aside their differences to stop the Qliphoth from spreading any further. But in order to do so, the roots of the tree have to be severed in the underworld, and the Amato must then be used to seal the portal linking the two worlds together from within. Meaning for Dante and Virgil, it's a one-way trip that Nero isn't the biggest fan of, but Dante ensures Nero that the human world is in good hands as long as Nero's around to defend it. And so Dante and Virgil remain in the underworld to deal with the Qliphoth, while Nero and the others continue doing their Devil May Cry shit in the human world. But as we'll soon see, old habits die hard. The last thing we see is Dante and Virgil doing what they do best, showing brotherly love in the most lethal way possible. Once again, I found myself not thinking much of the story. It's straightforward, not really confusing, but it's pretty predictable. I didn't find anything to be truly engrossing, but as before, the characters themselves pick up the slack, and I do think this is one of the more introspective titles from the mainline series. Before any of that, though, who the fuck was Morrison? He's just in the story and the game acts as if I should know who this guy is. Apparently, he's the one that's been giving Dante jobs to pay the bills since Dante has become a bona fide hunter, but I don't remember a Morrison being a thing in the other games. At first, because the game starts like in media res, I figured, oh, okay, we'll probably get a flashback explaining everything, and we do get a flashback, but it does nothing to explain who Morrison is, so I had to look it up, and it turns out he's from the anime adaptation. But for some reason, well, they gave Morrison a hat. Is Morrison a title? Is this supposed to be the same dude? Also, why just introduce him into the main series now? I was so confused, but he's only in a handful of cutscenes and mainly serves to kickstart events, nothing else. Okay, but back to the main cast. I love that Nero finally gets some agency in this world. The first thing they do with the guy I noticed is they rip out the one thing that made him intriguing by virtue of his potential relation with the other guys, and then from those ashes arose a hero that finds his own place in the world. And if folks got a problem with that, that's on them. By the end of the game, he's set up to be the new main protagonist properly, and this time I feel it's perfectly earned. I was already a fan of him before. I love that he was a more emotional take on the Dante archetype. How there was more to this dude than just wacky high-flying antics, but now I'm extra happy to see Nero fully upgraded to main hero. Still on great terms with his girlfriend Kyrie, and now he's got a robot hand too, and robot hands are cool. I know he grows a new hand by the end of the game, but it turns out he's still able to use double breakers just fine, so even Nero understands if you want to keep that cool factor up, you gotta have a robotic limb. Nico the weaponsmith, I'm kinda split on. I love that she doesn't take shit from anyone, that confidence is great, and she's a really obnoxious driver that can get people hurt. But I kinda find her dialogue with Nero and V to be awkward, and not in a funny way, but rather this needed another draft or another take because some of her interactions with the crew can feel a little off.
Well, she ain't dead. Got a pretty smoking body, though. Not that I was barely even noticed. You know, you should go do your thing.
She also gives me a weird fucking look whenever she has a new double breaker to show me. I chalk that one up to the RE engine. I always felt facial animations in any game that uses it, be it Resident Evil or Devil May Cry, to be sort of odd, and DMC5 certainly ain't no exception. Oh my god. So the end of this game has Dante do the jackpot bit, and that's fine, but in the Virgil story, this bit is recreated in a pre-rendered cutscene. Apparently because of COVID restrictions, they couldn't recreate it in real time like they did with every other cutscene beforehand, but check Dante's face after he says jackpot here. Dios mio, look at that grin. It looks like a face app meme. Virgil, what's going on? Ow, Virgil, why do you look like you got stung by bees?
I have no recollection.
Well, that aside, I'm glad Dante and Virgil get some proper development as their sibling rivalry is explored, deconstructed, and then poked fun at. The game spends a little time going back to their childhood, their feelings about their family, elaborating on shit that, being real, should have been there much earlier, I think, but Better late than never, I just appreciate it being there because it gives these two added dimension and supplements their crazy hijinks while at the same time giving something Nero to do without overshadowing him or making him feel lesser. I want to care about the characters in any story I experience, be they the antagonist or protagonist. In DMC5, it's not Shakespeare, but it makes everyone in the main cast feel more interesting, layered, and important. Unless you're Lady or Trish, though, they don't get to do much. They're just along for the ride and service up some gooey fan service for all the horny nerds out there. I thought being used as like demon batteries would lead to something more interesting, but after being rescued, it's like nothing ever happened. Maybe with the next game, they'll find something for these two to do. And now that we have Nico as well, I can see them doing some, Charlie's Angels type of deal with Nero and the gang. Poor Kyrie must be giving all these ladies the meanest fucking glare I can imagine. But where do we go from here, though? Dante and Virgil are on better terms despite rekindling their bloodthirsty rivalry in the underworld. By the by, they're stuck in the underworld until the next game says otherwise. Will they remain there until the end of time, or will Nero at some point have to find some means of getting them out? Also, Virgil got a lot of people killed during his stint as Urizen. Not that I expect the next game to deal with that, or if the series will cover it at all, but I wonder, will there be repercussions for his actions in the long term? Nero is the new head of Devil May Cry. He's gotta deal with all the human world jobs now and pay the bills the electricity doesn't pay for itself. Either way, the foundation has been shaken. And it's pretty exciting. I don't know when Devil May Cry 6 will be happening, but I can say I am excited for it based on where this game went. Man, Bayonetta 3 really dropped the ball on that whole successor thing, didn't they? I mean, it's not like it's a competition or anything, so it really doesn't matter. However, not that I'd be doing this anytime soon, but I have been itching to get back into the Bayonetta series now that I have Devil May Cry under my belt. And I've been wondering if certain viewpoints I had towards the story or the gameplay in the Bayonetta series would change for better or worse now that I've played Devil May Cry. Again, I'm not going to be doing that anytime soon. I just wanted to throw that out there. But is that something you guys would like to see me tackle at some point? Like a revisit of the Bayonetta series in a post-Devil May Cry mindset? I'm glad that the one thing I can immediately say is that the campaign ended up being much better than DMC4 by virtue of there being no silly back and forth shit in the game's level design. In fact, this is probably the most linear the series has ever been, even more so than the reboot. The puzzles are gone. This game is just about you running to the next area and fighting whatever's in your way. Sometimes you gotta smack these red pimples to open up the next path, or you gotta find these little egg thingies and put them back home, your basic finding the key to unlock the door design, but this is the most complicated it ever gets. It's not even complicated, so why did I phrase it like that? Secret missions are back to being as simple as finding the proper portal to open them. I also noticed, unless I'm mistaken, they got rid of those hidden red orb spawns that you get for doing unusual things. Which isn't to say exploration has been made completely obsolete. No, I still think there's plenty of incentive to do so. Red orb clusters are everywhere, and you need those to purchase upgrades as before, right? You also gotta find those blue and purple orb fragments to extend your health and double trigger gauge respectively. But in this game, they completely removed healing items. The green stars, the double stars, all that shit, gone. Can't even find them in the store. Probably had asbestos in them the whole time and we didn't know any better. The only exception are those gold orbs which revive you with full health when you die. And they give those to you like candy in this game. Shit, they give you one each time you boot the game up and log into your Capcom account. What this means, though, if you want to heal yourself between battles now, you gotta explore the area and find some pickups, which I don't want to make this sound harder than it is. No, they cranked up the health and magic ore pickups you can just find on the field. Turn the corner on any stage and you're likely to find something that'll help you. Enemies are also way more likely to drop health and magic pickups too, and they also buffed the health regen of the Devil Trigger form. Until boss encounters, I never found myself on death's doorway. Sure, I got smacked a lot, bruising my rank and my ego, but I wasn't close to dying. And hell, even when I found myself clamoring for health during boss battles, the surplus of gold orbs I had in my person made me practically immortal. And even if you don't have gold orbs, you can also just spend red orbs to bring yourself back depending on how much you invested in, which in essence basically makes it the same as buying health items, but it's streamlined. Say goodbye to a good rank though if you go too hard on it, just as a heads up, but that's always been the case, so I ain't really saying anything new there. The main issue I have with the campaign requires that I get into the characters first because we got 3 of those sons of bitches to talk about for the main story. 4 if we want to include Virgil for the special edition, but we got Nero, Dante, and newcomer V to play with for 20 missions before the credits roll, each rocking their own style of gameplay. Nero returns from DMC4 with almost all of his previous arsenal intact. He's still got his trusty gun for long-range fun, maybe charged up, lay onto multiple hits for funsies. For swordplay, he's swinging the Red Queen again, which you can still rev up like a motorcycle for some added crunchy firepower, and it still feels really good to do so. I also love that you can now charge the blade manually while running now. That was something you couldn't do before. You had to slow to a crawl to charge it up, which was mainly why I didn't like doing that. I just relied on using the X-Seat ability to charge the blade mid-combo, which holy fuck, in this game, they made it slightly easier to do, and it's still one of the best things about Nero's gameplay. Just seeing your blade glow and ooze with power, my hands fucking hate me afterwards, but the results don't lie. This slaps once again. Let's talk about his new Devil Breaker though. So Nero got his arm cut off in the opening. Happens to all of us, I'm sure, but this means that Nero, by default, doesn't have a double trigger, until endgame anyway, and he doesn't have his command grab, the Buster. You can still grapple things, you can pull enemies towards you, or if they're too big, you go to them, and you can still zip across the level whenever you see one of those grapple points. That's still fun, glad it was brought back, but now, with Devil Breakers, your arm could do different things depending on the type of Devil Breaker you have currently equipped. And there's a lot to choose from too, so you're not hurting for options, assuming you even like what's being offered. I won't get into all of them, I didn't even have time to use all of them in my first playthrough, but some Devil Breakers can push enemies away with a point-blank blast of energy. You can shoot one like a projectile, watch it harass the closest demon to you. Look, it's like the rocket punch from Phantom Pain on drugs. Sweet, delicious drugs. Some Devil Breakers can pierce through shields better than others. One even acts as your old Devil Bringer from before. What was it? The Buster Arm? Yeah, that was it. With this, you can grab enemies again and swing them around like they're made of styrofoam. Probably won't shot get a learn at this ended up being my favorite one because, well, I really like grabbing things in DMC4 and I hate change. Still, the Devil Breaker system as a whole, I thought this was fine. Experimenting with different varieties made combat more interesting until I found the handful I was comfortable with. There's two things about it though. Devil Breakers don't last forever. They'll degrade over time until they finally break. Now, I'll admit this wasn't that big of a deal because, well, one, you could always buy more from the shop and they're not terribly expensive, and two, you can find these things all over the place in any mission involving Nero. Seriously, you can't go more than 5 feet without running into a spare Devil Breaker on the floor. You should never be hurting for these, but if there's a particular Devil Breaker you like, you gotta keep the stock up, or be lucky enough to find that type in the level itself. Even so, if you're rocking different kinds of Devil Breakers at once, you can't choose which one to use without breaking the others. You cannot freely switch between Devil Breakers without going to the store. You either keep using the ones you already have until it breaks, or forcibly break it yourself with the L1 button. You're supposed to use that skill to get yourself out of a bind. Some enemies can grab you, but you can avoid harm altogether by breaking the Devil Breaker, where you'll then switch to the next one available. That's it though, that's the only way you can, in some form or fashion, switch between Devil Breakers, and I gotta say, in a series that has no problem letting you freely switch between your swords, your guns, your battle stances, I find it so fucking odd that Devil Breakers are the exception to this, and I don't like that. Yes, the whole system would need to be rebalanced to justify infinite use or free switching, but as it is, I don't like how finite Devil Breakers are in this, and I wish there was a better compromise. Well, okay, I guess after beating the game, this issue is somewhat mitigated. Because of how the story plays out, Nero will get his Devil Bringer back, and in future playthroughs, you just deadass have your Buster attack again, on top of having a proper Devil Trigger. And the Devil Breakers, you're basically DMC4 Nero with the added perks of DMC5. It's great, but you gotta beat the game first to get this. I'm hoping by default in the next game, Nero is something more alike to this form from the get-go. Still, as of now, I thought Nero was an absolute dream to control and play with. It's more of the same gameplay I fell deeply in love with in DMC4 with some added spice. Nero's up there, man. In terms of hack and slash characters I love to use, Nero's looking to take the top spot on my list. But right behind him is Dante, once again bringing the best things about him from DMC3 and 4, but he gets some new toys that make him such a fun dude to fight with. And the biggest one, that's gotta be Devil Sword Dante, right? All the best things about his Rebellion Blade, plus he gets his own variety of summoned swords, so now all that crazy shit I can do with Virgil, I can now do with Dante. I am so sorry. He's also rocking a pair of fists again, those shoulder plates looking incredibly tacky. They brought back the nunchucks from DMC3, meaning I could do all that flippy shit again. The Faust hat. I love the Michael Jackson reference when he gets it, but the weapon itself I didn't use much. You have to spend red orbs to use it, but you get larger red orb payouts if you use it correctly. But I didn't trust myself to do it, so I left this baby in the shelf and collected dust afterwards. Dante gets a motorcycle that's also a pair of saw blades. This might be the greatest thing about this game. They're slow as fuck, but the damage output is insane if you know how to use them. He also gets an upgraded double trigger called Sin Devil Trigger. Kind of reminds me of the Majin Devil Trigger form from DMC2. Maybe that's actually what this is supposed to be now that I think about it, but this form is nuts. The design is boss as fuck, and you go apeshit with the damage output. It costs a lot of double trigger to even use though, so sometimes maybe it's just best to stick with the original. But when you're able to get it out, it's always a sight to behold. This game's newcomer, in a sense, is V. Now, this dude ain't exactly a fighter. He can read poetry, Genesis ass looking motherfucker, but in terms of combat, he can't do much. So he gets a pair of demon familiars, a bird named Griffin and a panther named Shadow, covering aerial and grounded options. So V is basically a beastmaster, right? That's what came to mind anyway. He sicks his demons on enemies, letting them do the dirty work while he just chills and walks menacingly. And his double trigger, he just summons the Nightmare boss from DMC1, and this thing just doesn't give a fuck. It's completely autonomous, so you don't even have to babysit it, and it shreds through enemies like tissue paper. The thing is, your buddies can't actually kill anything. V has to deliver the killing blow with this special move once an enemy's health is low enough, and you know, I didn't mind that. That always felt pretty satisfying to do. V felt awkward to use at first, but I did get comfortable enough to get consistent S ranks and above, but combat always felt a bit disconnected. I know my bird and cat are whipping demon ass like nothing else, but because V himself doesn't get directly involved, the combat loses some impact to me. I don't feel as in control of my actions, or I also don't feel as satisfied, doing combos and all that. What also doesn't help is the lack of screen time V ultimately gets in this game, and that boils down to how the campaign is set up. As usual, there's 20 missions, but we have 3 protagonists. You probably already see where this is going. At certain points of the story, you switch to another character, but sometimes the game will give you a choice, so you can get more mileage out of someone like V if you really want to grow more accustomed to their style. Still, V doesn't get nearly the number of missions compared to Nero or Dante, and when I had the choice, I stuck with Nero or Dante because I was more familiar with them, and I like to be comfortable when playing these kinds of games. Also, this game does something pretty clumsy with character management. Red Orb's health and double trigger upgrades transfer between characters, but abilities and skill upgrades have to be purchased separately for each character, which means you're gonna need a shitload of Red Orbs to get everyone up to snuff. You're not doing that in one playthrough, right? Like, that's something that'll take multiple runs, which is time I sadly don't have. So with characters like V, he was underdeveloped because I wanted to save my orbs for Nero or Dante. I feel considering the series always encouraged multiple playthroughs, V should have been someone you could unlock to do the campaign with all over again. That way he gets a lot more room to spread his wings. Keep him strictly as a story character in the main campaign and then let the player go ham if they're interested enough. Unfortunately, that's not what we get here. But as always, assuming you're playing Special Edition, you can take any of these guys to the Bloody Palace and flex your combos there. Nero, Dante, V, or the cooler V, Virgil. I've been deeply enjoying replaying the game as Virgil in every game he's in so far, the only exception being the reboot. But this is the Virgil I was really looking forward to playing as because I know not only do I get all the things I love about the guy, the cool Yamato combos, the Beowulf gauntlets, the Mirage Edge, the summon swords, the teleportation moves, the awesome finishes he can do, the doppelganger double trigger. Oh, they took that from the reboot. I guess they really like that. But if you want something a little more classic, Virgil still got his own Sin Devil Trigger too. And it even does a disco dance if you buy the EX taunt. I caught this bit out of context some time ago and legitimately thought this was a mod. I mean, can you blame me? The first thing that comes to mind whenever I think of Virgil in DMC5 is him sitting on that goddamn lawn chair. But no, this is something in the game, and if you do it in front of Dante, he even dances along. I love that. But what I was really looking forward to was the music. It's something I've heard a million times before I even came close to playing this special edition or not. Devil May Cry 5, I think, has the best battle themes in the series, and I love how they made each song dynamic depending on the current rank you have. The better you do, the more intense the music gets. When you reach the A rank and it just sounds like this build up to something good, something great even, almost like the game is telling you you're almost there, just a few more moves, the S rank is within your reach, go for it, man! And then boom, you reach the S rank or beyond, and the music really takes off. And there's a lot here that's great. Nero's Devil Trigger is a seriously great theme for the guy. It's also full of innuendos again. Last song tells us about him coming, and now this song wants me to pull his Devil Trigger, but keep it on Reddit, Nero. V's Crimson Cloud is pretty slow by comparison, but I like chanting along with the lyrics once they kick in. Dante's Subhuman was the weakest one for me. I'm not that into deathcore because I like to understand what the singer's throwing at me, but it still fits very well for his badass moves, so I think it still works for the guy. I just didn't like it as much as the other themes he's had. None of them come close to Virgil's Bury the Light, though. This song is just amazing. It's not as fast-paced as his music from DMC3, but this 9-minute industrial rock piece encapsulates everything that's awesome about Virgil in this game and previously. I fell madly in love with this music during battles and I felt so fucking powerful. What an awesome time. It brings me immense joy that this is the game we leave the series on because what a return to form. And I'm speaking as someone who ended up really liking the reboot, but there's no denying it. The energetic combat, the over-the-top antics, the music, the sound, the characters, it's all great. This is just a better DMC4, and if you haven't played it yet, you really should do so. It's sold at a discount everywhere. It ain't asking for much. And because I said the reboot was top 3 in terms of gameplay last time, some of you went, huh? I bet some of you are probably wondering how I rank each game in the series now that I'm at the end of the line. The end of the marathon totem pole. Let's do it. We're gonna go from worst to best, starting from the bottom. DMC2, that's a no-brainer. Has some improvements over the original game. I like Dante's look in it, but it is a big nothing burger everywhere else, and it caused the developers a lot of pain. Next up, the original. Without this, there wouldn't be a series at all, so I feel that gives it some extra credibility. But it's still got some antiquated design, a troublesome camera, the combat isn't as fleshed out, and it can be pretty damn hard at times. Still, if I had to play it, I wouldn't have any trouble doing so. Okay, so this is where we get dicey. I'm gonna put DMC4 and DMC the reboot in a tie. DMC4 did wonders for the gameplay and introduced us to Nero, but fuck that campaign. It's so boring, so meandering. I hope I don't have to revisit it again anytime soon. The reboot, on the other hand, has a solid story, a solid campaign, and solid characters, except for Virgil, which I feel they mishandled big time, especially post-game. The gameplay works very well, but the angel and demon mechanics overwhelmed me in the heat of combat more times than I could count, and I never completely got the hang of it. Next up, DMC3, the Switch version specifically because of the new freestyle mode. The gameplay isn't as tight as DMC4, but I think DMC3 has a better complete package. Better weapons, better guns, the story's better, the tower wasn't terribly mundane to venture through, and I enjoyed most of the boss fights. Also the first game to give us a playable Virgil, and that brings it up the ladder for me. At the very top though, DMC5. Despite already playing every other game, I had no sense of burnout completing this one multiple times at that. A testament to the campaign's well-crafted design, the characters in it, and the tweaks of the gameplay that simply put it a notch above the rest. The game also looks seriously amazing, and they fixed Dante's look. This is my favorite incarnation of Dante, period. The personality, the red coat, the ruffled hair, the grizzled beard, he's got that proper cool uncle vibe with a very unsettling And that will be a wrap for the Devil May Cry series. This has been a very fun ride. I have certainly fulfilled my action game quota for the year, and then some. I'm surprised I didn't get burned out by the end of DMC5, but you know, no regrets. This has been an amazing ride, and this has been a very fun marathon to record and make videos for. And I hope you guys have been enjoying the ride as much as I have been too. These are some really good games, and you need to invest in them if you haven't already. And I want to thank everyone for the recommendations and for all the loving comments you left in all the videos previously. And again, I know we're well past at this point, but again, the DMC video when I got age restricted, that killed me. But you guys did your best to get it back up, and the shares and retweets, especially over on social media, have been amazing. So again, thank you very much for your generosity and contributions. So in terms of future marathons, there are things I want to say, there are things I want to talk about in terms of like what the future's going to hold for how I format reviews and all that sort of thing. Nothing too game changing like that. I'm not going to like suddenly drop the versus stuff. No, that's always going to be my bread and butter for this channel. But I'm thinking I'm looking into maybe changing things up just a little bit on how I handle videos, but I'll save that for a future video as I get to work on another set of videos that I have planned. In terms of marathons, though, I'm going to be taking it a little easy in terms of like heading into the next one. Again, the future will tell. But anyway, I hope you guys look forward to whatever I have in store for you later, and thank you so much for your patience as I get ready for the beginning of the fall and towards the end of the year, because I cannot believe 2023 is already over. But anyway, I won't waste too much of your time. This is already the end of the video anyway. How about we do some more end of the video patron shoutouts? My sensor light just went off as I said that. Probably that click that you heard. That's really fucking weird, isn't it? All right, continuing on with our $10 Patreon shoutouts. Again, you can find my Patreon in the card up top or in the description below. Should be one of those two. Moving on, Chance Auclair, The Sundown Kid, Flamer EDM, Admiral Octopus, Orpheus, Joey, Lone Otaku, Sunkiss Waves, For I Am Burdened with Glorious Beard, Zishan Ansari, Jonathan C., Jaime Lopez, Gutierrez. My deepest apologies for getting that last name wrong. Sharper Whisper 9, Marquez, Ryan Riccieri, Echidna Dylan, Metal Tremin, Jackie Pendragon, Nalram Royalt, Spooky Pandas, Nick the Nocturne, the role-playing gamer, Nova the Artist, Keldio60, C. Arson, John Alfaro, Johnny Ari Craig, Marcise Edwards, Unoriginal Uno, Ghost Melon, was it Connie Tenosian, Video Game Wacko, Inkman Nico, Gur, Jagmaster0527 Plays, Isaac it's Otaku, hey Otaku, Diaga236, Def the Kid, Guacamole, I like how it's spelled, William Darius Sterling, Fools Arcana, Jack Bailey, Matthias Felicio, I was going to say Felicio for a second there, Nason Villanueva, Joey B, Facebed, Dote Fuller, Victor McKnight, Fred Torres, Chris Reed, Fatalk123 Gaming, Cappy Dragon 2001, Skyluxer, Midori Smith, Tara Makes, Cameron Hill, Pixelator Gadsy, 9Zilla2, Jesus Mancio, Adam Talkins, Fusionator 1400, and finally for today, That Gamer Caleb. As always, thank you all for tuning in and watching the video, and I will see you guys in the next video. Obviously. Aren't these outros great? Ever since I started doing the Patreon shoutouts, I've just been kind of like winging the outros, and it's been disaster after disaster ever since. But as always, thank you all for watching. Take care of yourselves and each other. Have yourselves a fantastic night, and take care.